Thanks to Namrata Singh Gujral to accept our invitation again. Hi, Namrata. It's so good to see you after 4 years, and you have been so busy in these 4 years that we need to repeat our memorable talk of it was before election. Hi.
Hi, good morning, Kathleen. Namaste from California. Thank you for having me again. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. It was already very, very interesting because I remember talking to you in 2020 before before the November elections, and there was a very big change. That's how we found you on the internet. Somebody who changed his mind in the last minute because of what she was seeing. And since then, you are an awarded filmmaker, right? So where did it start before you turned to filmmaking? Just to give a short introduction of yourself.
Sure. So just a very quick intro. I started in the entertainment industry as an actor. This was 25 years ago, maybe 30, a long time ago. And I did several US network shows on CBS and NBC, etc. I was on the shows for a few years, several years. And then sometime in my 30s, I got diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had to do a bilateral mastectomy and a full hysterectomy and things like that. Obviously, that affects how you look. Being an actor is a looks-based industry. Was then, was now, no matter what they tell you. And so I kind of decided to just do filmmaking and see how that would work. And actually, it was great. It was a blessing, because what I found was that my talent and my passion was not acting, it was storytelling. And I was trying to do it through acting. And then when I started making films, I thought, this is going to be a bizarre statement, but I think cancer was a gift in that it gave me my true passion in life, which is filmmaking. And that's how I got here.
And even before you got awarded as a filmmaker, you were very passionate and committed to the cause that you were presenting in your films. But as far as I know, your films are now awarded, which means that you are getting ahead. It just doesn't only give you a satisfaction. It is giving. It is a gift for the American people, because you are showing them something that caused your change of mind as well, because politically you sided differently before you. So there was a lot of changes basically in your life.
Yeah, but Kathleen, I also think for Americans, most of the Americans are kind of like me. They're in the middle, right? And you get so much information from different sides, and sometimes it's a plethora of information, and you're not sure what to believe, where to go with it, right? So I think what my movies have done, I haven't really, I wouldn't say I've been some game changer or anything, but truly what my movies, this is what audiences write to me. My movies have simplified the decision making for them. So what they have done is, as I tell the story of my journeys, for example, in America's Forgotten, when you and I spoke before, the latest film that came out this year before the election, it's titled America Invaded. And it's also on Amazon Prime. And I do believe people wrote to me and said it helped change the vote, particularly in our swing states, from a blue vote to a red vote, vote for Donald Trump. And that was that was nice to hear.
All the more so because it wasn't planned. It was not in your interest. It was the facts themselves that you let them talk. And it's very rare now in the media when even the narrative is being influenced, and you didn't seem to let yourself be influenced.
Yeah, so I actually, years ago, before I joined the film industry, my major was in filmmaking, but my minor was in journalism. And I come from that standpoint of when they taught you the hallmarks of journalism, which is, it is not your opinion, it's the story that lets people form their opinions. And I've always stood by that.
Which is becoming more and more rare, so more and more precious, maybe we can say. America's Forgotten was a very heartbreaking film. because it shows the average American who is ready to sacrifice their life in the different wars that America was engaging, and also some homeless people and the families who lost their loved ones, and and you put it in the balance of what is going on with illegal immigration, although you yourself are an immigrant. So, which means that there is a huge difference between getting into America as a melting pot and contributing to it, or coming as an invader. It might be a big eye opener, opening cause and talk. When you show it on your films, what was the reaction, and how did you make this film? How did you proceed with the making of this film?
So America's Forgotten, the one you were talking about from 2020, was a picture that I had started actually from the standpoint of following the journey of illegal immigrants to Europe, or you have the same situation in Europe as well. You have a lot of migration that happens that is not legal, and there's a big difference. By the way, there was just a very big argument on X, formerly known as Twitter, between, I think it was a Musk and a MAGA argument, where they were talking about legal H-1B visas versus illegal immigration. We won't get into all that, but that's something actually that I cover in my film that I released this year, America Invaded. But going back to America's Forgotten, the film had started with me wanting to track the journey of illegal migrants and talk about what they go through in their effort to get to the United States border. And in my journey, I found out things that I had no idea were happening. So I think toward the end of it, initially, when you start finding out those things, some people on your team are saying to you, just put those in the side footage. We'll just stick with what we started to make. And because it was a documentary, I think in editorial, I said, you know what, guys, it's not right. We found things, and if we accidentally found them, it is our job to share it with the audience. And once we put all of those things that we had accidentally found in the film, it became a completely different movie. And that's how America's Forgotten was released to an audience who was perhaps not prepared for everything the film was going to show. The one that we have this year, we just released it a couple of months before the election. It's called America Invaded. And as you know, under the Biden administration, we had vast amounts of illegal immigrants crossing our border, all-time historic highs that happened. But aside from that, there is a national security angle here that we covered. Because I don't know if you know this in Europe, and this is true in Europe as well, but certainly in America in the past few years, the illegal, and I want us to use the word illegal, the illegal migrants that are coming in, a lot of them now on what we call terrorist apprehension lists, which is, for us, we have the FBI. In Europe, I don't know what your security organizations are, but you have people that are not being vetted. So at a large number, part of those migrants that are coming in are on these terrorist watch lists. And so there's a much bigger price than just letting people come into your country and invade the border. There are severe national security implications that we're seeing as a result of illegal immigration.
So you seem to specialize on elections, right? Your most important films are broadcasted, are launched before elections. Is it by chance, or you planned it this way?
America's Forgotten, I did not plan that way. I have to say, America Invaded, releasing it before the election, I did plan it that way because again, with America Invaded, we found things that we felt the American people needed to see and hear. And if that helped them make a choice in the election, then that would be good for the country. It's like serving your country in a lot of ways. So America Invaded, it was released with the election time frame in mind. Yes.
Are you happy with the result? And what were you saying that we are kind of because we also specialize our radio talk is also specialized on elections because we talked 4 years ago, and you mentioned that we are on the same side with the elections, or I don't know what you meant by that. And are you happy with the result, both the film and the election?
I am very happy with both of those results. I will certainly happy with President Trump's election. Primarily, look, you're never going to have a perfect leader for millions of people that is just going to check every single box for you.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is you remember the priority of the day, and then you elect a leader who can take care of those top priorities. And then the rest will happen. Then, whatever happens in the future, the lesser priorities for any individual, my priorities may be different from yours or someone else's. But for me, the border was a major priority, I think, as it was for a lot of Americans. And so I was very, very thrilled to see President Trump get elected. As you know, he won by a landslide. I'm very pleased with the film. In particular, as I said, Kathleen, we got emails from what we call swing states in the United States. We have a few states where we have the electoral college. So where even a handful of votes, a couple of hundred votes, can decide our national election because of where the electoral college votes go from that state, which are then obviously based on, could be just a little villa, a town, a little place. And in those swing states, this year, they were evenly, it was a dead heat. It was like 50-50. So even one or two votes would change the entire landscape of the national election, and it would be Trump or Harris. And I'm pleased to report that America Invaded helped change some of the votes from Kamala Harris to Donald Trump. And I think in terms of doing what I set out to do for the country this year, not only was the movie successful, but the American people were successful because they listened, they watched the movie, and they made up their minds. And it sounds like in the right direction.
Right. Are there any other films that you would like to mention to us? Because these are for me, from election wise, these are the most important ones because it shows the reality in a documentary. But I know that you have a filmography at least much longer than that. So I would be happy to hear about anything else that you yourself are proud of.
As a movie, that I.
Or I know about your other activities that you are giving interviews and motivational speeches. So whatever you think you are proud of, especially, and you would like to highlight it for us, I would like to hear that.
Well, sure. I think the biggest thing that I'm proud of, and really I'm not proud of it, I'm proud that God is on my side, and I'm thankful for, is that I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. So as I mentioned earlier, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my 30s. And then in my early 40s, I was diagnosed with a very, very, very aggressive blood cancer. And I had to go to a place called City of Hope in California, where they do bone marrow transplants. I couldn't find a match because, my ethnic background, sometimes we don't have that many matches. So we had nothing. We had no options. And then there was a clinical trial that they were stopping in a couple of days. And they said, do you want to do it? We're stopping it because it's killing a lot of people. And I said, well, do I have any other choice? And they said, no, your cancer is very aggressive. And I said, well, if I'm going to go one way or another, I may as well try, this trial. And I did it. And I was, I think, one of the 1.2% was the rate that it cured, and everybody else and I was one of the 1%, and I walked out in full remission. In fact, I was at City of Hope yesterday for my follow-up, and it looks like God's blessings keep on giving. And but I don't take that lightly. I take God's blessings as a way that I have my life to serve and to do some work in my path. And I take that as a responsibility with a lot of honor.
That sounds just great and very inspiring. Uh, are you happy with the awards of the film? Because as far as I remember, in 2020, you said that there are some backlashes and or they don't want to broadcast it on different channels. And do you think that you are more in the light now? Do they let you show what you have found?
Yes, we didn't find quite that much of a backlash this year, but I think also, if you think about America, I think America changed in the past 4 years. When you think about 2020, um, it was they a lot of Americans. I mean, Biden got elected, and you can argue why he got elected, etc. But I think in the past 4 years, Americans changed. Americans saw what's happening with America, and I think you can only fight vox populi, the voice of the people, for so long. When you've got masses of people, your core audience, for me as a filmmaker, but your core citizens as a politician, and they are in your favor or against you, you can't fight them. You can't fight the truth. That's how I think, Kathleen. My religion is Sikhism from India, a Sikh Hindu faith. And the hallmark of Sikhism, the first, when you open our holy book, it says Ek Omkar. Ek Omkar means there is only one truth ever in the universe. That is it. For anything, whether it's us being born, us dying, whatever, something we're doing, there's only ever one truth. There's never two truths to anything. So when that one truth comes known, it's hard to fight it. And so this time they've been very open with the movie showing everywhere.
How did America change? I know that your political views, from being a Democrat to, I don't know if you are a Republican, because last time you said that you are not exactly, but you are voting for the right option that you see as right. So it's maybe isn't that not just a dualist worldview, being a Democrat or a Republican, but still it was a game changer for you, and you accepted it. Not you didn't stick to an idea. You were sticking to the facts or to the truth. How did America change, and how do you proceed in your changed worldview?
That's a great question. So first of all, I still remain a Democrat for a couple of reasons. One, because it's a lot of effort to change your party. So I think there's that. I voted for Donald Trump this year again. The reason I haven't made that much of an effort to change from the Democratic Party is because I think the Democratic Party still has things that I like. In particular, I don't know how your audience will think about this, but I personally feel that the government shouldn't get involved in abortion or a woman's right to choose or any of that. Personally, I don't think the government should get involved. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Pretty much every religion, I think, doesn't want it to happen, but I believe in live and let live. I want to live my life the way I want to live it. You live yours. And I think that's a big part of America, right? The freedoms that we have. So I think there is something to be said for one of the things the Democratic Party does that I still align with. That being said, when we overturned Roe versus Wade, they didn't make abortion illegal. All they did was they give abortion back to the states. So the states could choose which way they wanted to go with it. And, so it wasn't, I think that was another sort of misinformation that was spread, which was then rectified during the election campaign and helped Mr. Trump win. In terms of, you asked, what do I see, how Americans have changed? I will say it in 3 bullet points. You see, I'll talk about California in general, for example. You see the illegal immigrants coming in, and our health insurance keeps going up every year. It goes up and the services become less and less, especially someone like me, right? 2-time cancer survivor. I have to go see a lot of physicians. In the meantime, okay, I'm thankful that I have health insurance. A lot of Californians, born and raised Californians, do not have health insurance. But in the meantime, we are giving free health insurance, good health insurance, to illegal immigrants. Now, I totally understand the empathetic part of it. All human beings should be treated as insofar as health is concerned, but not, here's my caveat, not at the behest of ignoring your own people, not at the behest of, you don't take the money from your own citizens and put it over here. That's not right. So I think people looked at their health insurance, people looked at their grocery bills. Eggs. The other day I was in California, 12 eggs, 1 dozen eggs. I kid you not. 14.99, $15. I don't know what that is in Hungarian currency for a dozen eggs. Now, for me, I bought them, but there are people who literally have stopped. They're buying half the groceries because they can't afford it. And these are people with 4 or 5 kids. So I think you saw the economy and you saw the border. And I think 4 years later, Americans thought, what the heck just happened to our country? And that's why you saw the result in the election that you saw.
That means that the American people can open their eyes and they want to see the reality and the truth, even though the narrative and the media and the political narrative doesn't help them see more clearly. How do you think they manage?
I think that the best thing to happen to America, honestly, was citizen journalism. Mainstream media, when they started talking about mainstream media, remember, I come from a background where I have a degree in journalism. And when they started talking about mainstream media initially, I was a little bit hesitant because it was like, well, all of these outlets can't just be misreporting information. And I don't know if it's so much misreporting. I think it's more biased information that's being reported. So if you keep out some of the parts, kind of like my documentary, if you keep out the parts and you still report correctly, yes, you're reporting correctly, but you're only giving them half the information. And I think that's what started happening with mainstream media. And then came, I think, more X than anything else, and came some of the podcasts. I think podcasters were a game changer in this election. You've got the Joe Rogans of the world. You've got just so many of them. Particularly, I think the platform X, Elon Musk platform. I think they are very much instrumental in Donald Trump winning this election. So I think the citizen journalism beat mainstream media. And that's how, but there's another part of it, Kathleen. Once the information was given on the citizen journalism platforms, you have the transmission of information, dissemination, but then you also have the receipt. Are people willing to receive it? And I'm so proud of the American people because they saw the information, they received it, they analyzed it, and they accepted it. And I think that is, you could give all the information to anyone. If they're not willing to accept it, then it doesn't matter. But you have to be able to see something, even if you don't recognize it, analyze it, and then assess for yourself if you have perhaps been thinking about it incorrectly, and be willing to make those changes.
That sounds like they are very smart and intelligent for making this this analysis of what was being shown to them, even though we were kind of afraid of the fact that they accept things at face value because this is what they are used to. So it's not like that. You are saying.
No, and I think also what was very encouraging, excuse me, the younger generation, Generation Z, the younger kids, we see them on TikTok. We always say, oh, these younger kids, they don't have a clue. Turns out they're clued in. And I think this election made me realize that we are leaving the world in the hands of people who can assess, analyze, accept or not, and react accordingly. And I think it gave you a lot of faith in the younger generations around the world. I'm sure the other generations are equally smart in other parts of the country, But they should look at what the American kids, not someone like me who's older, what the American kids did and follow that, because they would do a great service to their individual countries if they did that.
That sounds very hopeful. And it also involves the global generation X. How much do you know about Hungary, or the place of Hungary in Europe, and how do you think it will affect the future as for the young generations?
Well, listen, Hungary is obviously, I mean, Hungary is one of the more conservative countries, right, in Europe. And we've got this thing right now where Elon Musk started this whole thing in the UK. And I think, again, I'm not an expert on what's happening in the UK with the grooming and the rapes, etc. But I think in general, Europe is where you think about it, people say everybody wants to move to America. Okay. Well, everyone wants to travel to Europe, even Americans. I said to someone the other day, they moved here, excuse me, from Budapest. And I said, they were showing me photos, and I said, why would you leave that and move here? What a beautiful continent, what a beautiful country, and what beautiful cities you guys have. And I think when something is so valuable, in particular, when your ancestors have protected it, it is now upon the younger generation to protect it. And you can be empathetic to the world. I'm not saying you can't. I'm actually a very empathetic person. I'm myself an immigrant. But you also have to understand the reality of protecting what is valuable so it doesn't get destroyed. And that's just a very broad statement over something that's far more complex. But I think it is important to safeguard what is valuable, your traditions, your way of life, your way of thinking, because that is what your ancestors fought for. In America Invaded, we talk about it. A lot of Americans gave their lives for our country so we could uphold our way of life in America. We give you stories of 6 American families whose kids went to war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I mean, you think about how many casualties we had in Iraq and Afghanistan. These are 6 stories that were handpicked that were perhaps more heartrending than all the stories that of soldiers that didn't come back are heartrending, of course. These are 6 that went above and beyond. Do you know that we have a current Saving Private Ryan in our country? So with Saving Private Ryan, very famous movie, 3 brothers went to war, World War II, and only 1 came back because 2 of them died. We actually have that in the current conflict. We had 3 brothers who went to Afghanistan and Iraq. 1 was killed, the 2nd one was killed, and they brought the 3rd one back, and we call him the Private Ryan. And if you want, at some point, I can certainly try to see if I can, on your show, bring some of my cast to talk to you about it. But anyway, we have 6 stories that go above and beyond service and sacrifice to America as a soldier. And my point in America Invaded to Americans was, there are people who are willing to not just give up their lives, but give up all of this for your country, for our country. So why would you not take the time to at least recognize what the country needs, study it, and then you can accept it or not, but at least make that effort, because a lot of other Americans made a lot of efforts for you. And I think that was the hallmark of America Invaded, that people started watching. First, they didn't know that so many things had happened to our soldiers overseas. And I think it really sort of gave them more of a call to action, to finish the movie, to watch it, and to see what it is that we were trying to say, how we were in some ways compromising the legacy of these soldiers by letting the borders be open. And I think that that helped.
What is your next project on mind?
My next project is it is a war in Afghanistan. It is not going to be a documentary. It is going to be a narrative. It's in Afghanistan. It's a very tough fight that happened between a American company and the Taliban. And we lost a lot of soldiers. One of the highest casualties. and that is going to be the next one. So we're just finishing up development on the script, and I think we should be shooting that perhaps in the next 6 to 7 months. And we're going to shoot it, as you know, you can't go to Afghanistan to shoot these things. So there's a movie that Catherine Bigelow did, Zero Dark 30. It was Osama bin Laden, and it was when the SEAL team went in, and they shot that in a part of India called Zirakpur. And so we're going to go to Zirakpur and shoot this film, because Zirakpur in India looks just like Afghanistan. You just have to change out the street signs from the Indian language to Pashto, and it's Afghanistan all over again. So we're going to shoot it there. We're going to do it with some well-known Bollywood actors, some well-known Hollywood actors, and that's the next one.
So you make use of your ancestry and your present country, and this really hardcore journalism that you are doing, apart from the entertainment that you used to do as an actress. That's a big career, and you know that there are a lot of American films are being shot in Budapest. So if you feel like you are invited.
Yes, thank you very much. We would appreciate that, and I'll hit you up, and maybe we can have coffee. Actually, just a little side story. We have a company called Photocam, which is they do post production. They do a lot of like lab work, and one of the heads of Photocam a few years ago, they started a Budapest like a satellite office, and so he lived in Budapest for 2 years. He and his wife went there. I actually took care of their dog when they were gone. And so we have a lot of entertainment industry, and you know what, this might be a good time to come to Budapest as well. So I will definitely look up your Budapest office for filmmaking. Thank you for that. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck for you. Be blessed in your work, as you consider already blessed by God, and given this kind of I don't know why you call it, like a duty, and you do it dutifully. So be blessed, and thank you, Namrata, that you again accepted our invitation. It was great talking to you.
Kathleen, it's always a pleasure, and I appreciate you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.